politics, protests, human rights, justice, equity, community. RaceAware.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of RaceAware, the podcast all about American race history and its overall impact on the lives of the marginalized. I'm Dr. Willis Boucher, along with my co-hosts Tony Szynski and Dan Sauber. You don't want to miss any new episodes, so subscribe and follow RaceAware right now. Let's get started.
How does white supremacy, the systemic, covert, and overt version, remain intrinsically woven in the ideological fabric of the United States? The use of racial gaslighting, which is the political, social, economic, and cultural process that perpetuates and normalizes a white supremacist reality through demonizing those who resist. And the use of racial spectacle, which are narratives that obfuscate the existence of a white supremacist state power structure. Well, guys, we have another heavy topic today, don't we?
We do.
Gaslighting is something that's been looming over us longer than we actually know. The last few years has actually brought it in the forefront. So you ready to discuss this?
If not now, when?
All right, let's just go over what gaslighting is and, basically why does it really matter. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation which in a person or a group covertly sows the seed of doubt in that targeted individual or that group to make them question their own memory, their perceptions, and even their own judgment. This manipulation may evoke changes in the target, such as a cognitive dissonance or low self-esteem. This renders the target additionally dependent on the gaslighter for emotional support and validation. Your cognition is a piece of knowledge, such as a thought, an attitude, personal value, something that you know. Cognitive dissonance is the psychological stress and the discomfort experienced when two cognitions, which is something that you know, are incompatible with each other, but they exist at the same time. For example, what you know and what you're being told flash what you're experiencing. So what you know is absolutely different than what you're being told. Or what you know or what you feel is totally different than what you're being told that you should be experiencing. Gaslighting abusers use denial, misdirection, contraindication, and disinformation to destabilize and delegitimize the target's beliefs. Do you think I covered what we needed to do the discussion today, guys?
I think so. Yes.
All right, so what do you guys think about gaslighting? Do you think that we're making a big deal out of it? They're not really talking about it as if it's a problem, but over the last 6 years, you've heard that word to the point where, right, so it's become a household word now. People at least hear it, but I don't know if people really know exactly what it means and what the implications are.
Well, let me ask you this. So what I've experienced on social media is if I stick up for any cause that's not associated with being Caucasian, I'm called a race traitor.
Wait a minute. If you defend someone?
Oh, yeah. So I've been called a race traitor by white people because
what is a race traitor? Oh my God.
Oh, because I defended indigenous people, I defended Hispanics, I defended black people. You name it, I'm going against my race. How dare I?
People just making stuff up these days. Race traitor. Oh, that's horrible, Tony.
But
what do you usually say? You usually tell them to,
then I'm proud to be a traitor.
Well,
If that's the way you're looking at it, then I'd rather be a traitor.
Well, you're not a traitor.
No, I'm standing up for humankind.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. So you don't tell them I'd rather be a traitor because you're not a traitor.
Oh, not at all. No.
Oh, okay. I thought you would tell them, well, I'd rather be a traitor then,
Oh, no. I mean, if that's their definition, then I'm proud to wear the title traitor.
Yeah, well,
But I'm not. I'm standing up for humankind.
You're talking to people who, I don't even think they know what a definition is, because spelling, grammar, some of these things just doesn't make a difference to them.
Right.
And a lot of these folks are repeating things like parrots, Some of them don't even understand the implications of what they're repeating.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's very true.
Mm-hmm. Even though gaslighting is usually associated with personal relationships, but it really has made itself into, it made a great leap into the mainstream of our lives. It feels like that we're living in a cesspool of gaslighting for so many years. Dan, what do you think?
I think we've been living in a cesspool for decades.
Mm-hmm.
When I started researching a little bit about gaslighting, I found that it probably went all the way back to around the Vietnam War, when we were told why we were there and the things that were happening over there. They were feeding us a bunch of bull until the media was able to get over there and report on it. But we were all fed this information that we thought, oh yeah, everything's fine, our guys are all right. And then all of a sudden we start seeing these pictures, these horrific pictures coming out of Vietnam. That's a very good example of gaslighting. And that goes back into the 60s. So,
right. Well, it goes back even further than that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But for me, that's when it hit me first. Well, we can call it gaslighting. It's basically lying through their teeth.
That's exactly what it is. Misrepresenting something.
Right.
Yeah, because gaslighting has been around a long time. I mean, think about the Catholic Church selling tickets to heaven so that you could pay on your sins and guarantee that you'll go to heaven. Poor people paid what they had, rich people paid more.
Right.
Even if they committed the same sin. So, I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's just gaslighting, and it actually, people who couldn't afford to pay anything, I mean, that changed their lives dramatically.
Right. In January, with the insurrection. Republicans saying, well, it wasn't that bad. It sounded more like a regular tour. I mean,
it was a regular tour.
Gaslighting.
It was a regular tour. I don't want to go on a tour where I get beaten.
I know.
That's too much experience on a tour for me.
Yeah.
It's too much interaction. It's too much customer interaction.
Right. But that's gaslighting. They want you to think it's one way when your mind tells you that's wrong.
And the thing is that they have the nerve to continue, even though we were literally watching it as it was happening.
Yes. Wow.
It's like they're trying to create a country of people who are insane, because if you're constantly gaslighted, eventually you start to even question your sanity, because people that gaslight constantly have you questioning, did I hear that right? Did I remember that right? Did I even know this at all?
It's interesting, and you brought up the church, and I'll just throw this in quickly. Right now in the news, obviously there's discussion about President Biden. Is he a good Catholic because he stands for abortion rights versus the church teachings, and bishops want to stop giving communion? Well, this morning there was a news report out of Canada where they discovered over 600 bodies buried on church property where an orphanage had been for indigenous people from 1899 to about 1970. So the hypocrisy of the church stating, birth, life before birth, life after birth, the child is so important, we're going to deny the President communion, and yet we're digging up 600 children killed at an orphanage for indigenous people run by the Catholic Church.
They found this out today?
Well, they've been finding it for a long time, but today they announced that there were over 600 sonar hits of bodies buried over a 100-year period.
And that was where?
Regina, Canada, which is outside of Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's unbelievable.
And not that it didn't happen in the United States either.
Right.
Right. Well, the same Catholic Church with the Crusades, if you believe in the sanctity of life, the last thing you want to do is start a war.
Right.
So, more gaslighting everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so
let's
it's not just Tucker Carlson.
No,
Sorry.
you just have to mention him. Let's just take a quick break. When we get back, we'll talk about gaslighting to sustain systemic racism and the use of gaslighting as political tactics. Don't go away.
We love bringing you the RaceAware podcast content. If you like what you hear, find our podcast valuable, and want to help us keep creating our content, show your support by spreading the word and partnering with us on Patreon for as little as $2.99 a month by going to patreon.com/RaceAware. Partners of the show get access to exclusive benefits such as private access to the RaceAware community, the digital downloads, voter power, free access to the live RaceAware lounge, supporter shoutouts, best of all, free RaceAware merchandise, and so much more. Check us out at patreon.com/RaceAware.
We're back. Thanks for staying with us. So, gaslighting to sustain systemic racism. There's a woman named Paige L. Sweda. She's a postdoctoral fellow with the Inequality in America Initiative at Harvard University. She claims that gaslighting is primarily a sociological rather than a psychological phenomenon and should be understood as rooted in social inequalities, including gender, and executed in power-laden, intimate relationships.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. She also argues that the abusers mobilize gendered stereotypes to win over their victims, and says gaslighting could not exist, quote, without inequities in the distribution of social, political, and economic power, end quote.
So my take is that sounds like a classic domestic abuser situation.
Yeah, gaslighting is usually used in the domestic abuse relationship. So if you're in a one-on-one relationship with someone, like a spouse that's abusive, okay, a friend that's abusive, but we're experiencing it as a group of people. The whole nation is being gaslighted.
Okay. And by several different groups at the same time.
Yes, several different groups at the same time. So it's a very hard time for some folks to stay stable as to what they really know. I mean, look, even the vaccination for COVID, still having a problem with that. And, it's been a little while since we had our first show and we talked about vaccine hesitancy. But every little bit of information that comes out, the latest is cardiomyopathy. They're saying that the vaccine or catching the now Delta variant of COVID
Right.
can put you at risk for getting cardiomyopathy. For those of you that don't know, it's the inflammation of the heart. But people now, especially the anti-vaxxers, are throwing all this information, and it's misinformation because it's not respecting the value and the content of the statement, that the CDC has put out. They're basically saying, see, this is what we're talking about. It's too dangerous.
But, well, there's risk to everything we do every single day.
Right, there's risk to everything. But the point is,
I take a baby aspirin every day.
Right.
And there are people who they can't take one.
Right. You take a baby aspirin every day, you're at risk for excessive bleeding.
Right.
Right. But the point is that there's a greater risk of you getting something like the cardiomyopathy without the vaccine and not surviving it, right? As opposed to when you're not vaccinated and you catch the COVID variant, you have a greater risk of getting it. Okay, so an example, children, they're saying that with children, because the anti-vaxxers are coming out strong because the kids, right?
Right.
So they're saying that 75% without the vaccine. 75% chance without the vaccine. That's huge.
That is a large figure.
That's a large figure. So if you know this, then why would you still throw misinformation out there, gaslighting, an effort that we've been waiting for so that we can get back to normal as possible?
Well, I guess what drives me kind of crazy is, who are we going to take advice from? And let's just say, are we going to take advice from Dr. Fauci or Gwyneth Paltrow?
Well, I think
that's a hard decision, isn't it?
Let me think about that one.
I think the answer might be Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, I go with them. But, or who's married to, her son had autism, and she's like the lead proponent.
Jenny McCarthy.
Jenny McCarthy. Again, I'm sure she's got her doctorate from a well-respected school in medical sciences, but I'll still listen to Dr. Fauci.
I think that's from the comedy club.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's been coming along for a long time. I mean, people questioning, and then leaders or people who aspire to be leaders grabbing onto that just to make it to a seat of power. And that's what we've been seeing. A lot of people listen to the leaders that they like. The problem in America right now is that we no longer have a center of truth.
No, we don't.
No.
So anybody could get up and say anything, and then they could tell you, well, that's my opinion.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's not even what they say, it's the degree. When I was doing a little research on gaslighting, there's something called racial microaggressions, where they're not huge, what I call lies, but they're just little snippets of things that make you doubt what you believe. Like, are you being too sensitive? Or are you sure that's what you saw?
Right.
They're very, very vague terms. And
right.
I didn't know that there was a name for it, but it's called racial microaggressions.
Yeah. Well, another point is that in an article, a 2017 article in Medium magazine by Zanji, that's Xanj, noted that gaslighting is fueled by any attempts at confrontation or dismissal of the gaslighter. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
It does.
So, quote, in response to being called out, a gaslighter will try to weave an even more intricate web, sometimes a nonsensical one. Zanji also continues by saying that as their sense of control slips, the attempts to regain it might reveal a desperate, fearful individual grasping at straws. I wonder what that sounds like. I mean, this is a direct quote. This guy must be like the new Nostradamus or something, because we saw a lot of this. We saw this when Trump's tax returns were revealed, and then he was diagnosed with COVID. So instead of backing off, he just amped it up. Okay? He amped it up. He tried to diminish the effects of COVID despite the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. So basically, anytime you confront a gaslighter with facts or the truth, they're going to double down. That's what we've been experiencing.
You know, and it's funny too, it also goes into the social fabric of our nation.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to ask just about anybody off the street, who do you think is the biggest user of food stamps in the nation? What answer do you think I'm going to get?
They're going to say African American.
Yes.
And you'll never guess what county in the U.S. has the highest rate of food stamps enrollment in the entire country.
Let me guess. Is it one of the counties in Kentucky?
It is.
The reason I'm saying that is I don't know which one it is, but I know it has to be Kentucky because that's McConnell's land there.
Well, I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce it. Owsley, Owsley County, which is 98.7% white, overwhelmingly Republican, and yet that county has the highest number of enrollment of any county in the United States.
And they're still lucky that Obama was president because the Republicans with Paul Ryan were trying to take Social Security away.
Right.
So, yeah, they're on welfare, but some of them, the ones who are not on welfare, some of them are on Social Security disability.
And I'm in no means putting anybody down for being on food stamps.
No, absolutely not.
Disability.
Yeah.
We paid in.
That's right. And it's a benefit, not an entitlement.
Right. Good point.
But to slander a group of people because they get a benefit or an entitlement is just wrong.
Right.
Yeah, but even worse, to slander people for that while you're on it, as you're voting for the people who are trying to take it away. That blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Blows my mind. The classic voting against your best interest.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the two basically related tactics in gaslighting are perpetual lying and denial. So remember when Mike Pence was debating Kamala Harris?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He was claiming that the Trump administration was making policy that was based on science, yet refused to acknowledge that the state of the environment posed an existential threat, or that the decision about the coronavirus were currently adhering to the dictates of the medical experts. So he kept on saying that they were adhering to the dictates of the medical experts. He would not acknowledge the environmental situation that we're in, and they were not following the dictates of the medical experts.
Right.
It reminds me of a great line from The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yep.
Exactly. It's like I remember Dr. Fauci's face during those ridiculous press conferences.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it was funny, but the majority of the time I was hot. I was mad, you know? And I appreciate the situation that he's in. You know, you can't just come out and say, I know that they probably would have put me in jail because I would have gone to the microphone and said, he's just lying. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and this is what the situation is. You know, I would have lost my job, and I understood why Dr. Fauci was doing that, simply because the fear, and we shouldn't even have this fear, that if he loses his job, they're going to put some crony, some useless crony, and now there'll be like a bigger gaslight because they have yet another gaslighter at the mic.
What happened to Dr. Scarf?
The lady?
Yeah.
The lady.
I keep forgetting her name.
Dr. Scarf. She always wore scarves.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I think she wears scarves so that you don't see that heavy swallow that she does every time they say something stupid. Because I remember the day that Trump talked about the Clorox.
Yeah.
Her face was priceless.
He really said it all.
Yeah, any color that was there drained out real quick.
And then one of the news platforms, one of them had the nerve to do a close-up of her face. That was hilarious. I mean, I was so mad, but I had to laugh when I saw that because all I can see is like what I was feeling on her face. You know, it's unbelievable. I mean,
well, when you think of the definition of gaslighting, the 4 years of that administration was nothing but gaslighting.
Oh yeah, and the Queen was Conway.
Yeah.
Kellyanne Conway.
I
Unbelievable.
mean,
I don't even know how I don't know how she could even live with herself. Well, the other thing that they do is they like in politics is to beat down their opponents, right? So they're going to repeat claims that news is fake. They're going to say science is fake. The coronavirus is a hoax. They're going to make things up about their opponents. They're going to take a grain of truth and skew it differently to put their opponents in a bad light. That's the kind of thing that we've been seeing in our politics today.
We sure have, consistently.
Yeah. And the thing is that I think we're going to see a lot more with this QAnon political sect, because that's what they are.
I was talking with a few friends last night about QAnon, and one of my friends, she stopped talking to her dad and stepmother because they're very much into the whole QAnon thing.
Right.
And it's nothing more than a cult.
Speaking of cults, that's my last point. The last point is collective gaslighting. And I think that that's where we find ourselves right now. And this is a danger zone.
Very much so.
Right. We've seen cult leaders skillfully guide their followers into collective death, like the Jim Jones group. In the same way, we're being asked today to tempt death by ignoring warnings such as wearing masks, keeping safe, taking your vaccine. It's no different. It's no different.
Well, one way that I fight back, so I'm fully vaccinated, I still will wear a mask when I go in a store.
Yeah, a lot of people. Me too. I still wear my mask. Yeah, because we don't really know everything that we need to know, and we won't know for many years to come. We don't know if being vaccinated, first before the vaccine, some people got COVID and they survived it just fine, right?
Right.
But then we didn't know if they would be able to catch it again, like the flu, right? And what the implications would be after that. Now that we have the vaccine, that still applies. We don't know. We know that the vaccine is supposed to be good for a certain amount of time, like 3 months. It's like the flu. The flu vaccine, that's why you have to take it every year. Every season you should take it because it only lasts for a certain period of time, which is usually the flu season. That's why it's important to, I think, you don't have to wear your mask all the time. Maybe if you're outside in the open air, you don't wear it, but I would carry my mask anyway.
I do.
Yeah, and then when you're in a closed environment where, no matter how much ventilation is going on in there, it's still circulating whatever is in there. I would put my mask on.
Just the three of us, before the vaccine came out in early 2020, we all experienced either somebody close to us passing away from COVID or somebody who ended up having COVID so bad we thought they were not going to make it. And they're still happening today.
That's right. That's right. And it's still happening. And the thing that concerns me is the disproportionate numbers throughout the country. And it's so telling because the majority of the red counties in the nation have the worst vaccine totals than the rest of the blue states.
It's definitely political.
Right. So there are states that literally don't even have a 25% vaccine rate. I mean, what have they been doing all this time?
Good question.
I mean, some states are almost at 70%. Some, just a handful. I mean, one, I don't remember which state it was. It might be New York, I think was 75%. So, I mean, this is when did we lose the we're all in it together mantra? When did we lose that as a country?
2016.
Wow.
I go back to the
so specific.
Tea Party.
Say it again?
I need to go to the moral majority or the Tea Party.
Yeah. Boy, Dan knew exactly when it happened.
That elevator ride. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And actually, that's a perfect example of gaslighting.
Yes. Yep.
They're rapists, they're murderers, they're drug mules. I mean,
he started out with a bang.
Yep.
I mean,
right. Yeah, it's gaslighting on two sides of the coin. So you have, if you keep saying it enough, the people, the targets, will start to feel like they are, especially since on the other side of the coin, the people that he's addressing and talking to are going to start treating these folks that way. And that's the problem with the gaslighting. It's not only that these things are being said and they're being received and the target is starting to doubt themselves. It's because the gaslighter recruits others, even if they don't actually talk to the other people. But a gaslighter will tell you, everybody thinks so, right?
Right.
Everybody thinks that you're mean to me. Everybody thinks that you don't remember things the way that they happen. Okay? And Trump is a king gaslighter. Every phrase that comes out of his mouth is gaslighting.
Well, I know I lost my dad to gaslighting. He fell into watching Fox News 24/7. That television was always on. And suddenly, this man that I thought I knew was a whole different person, terrified of everything because he was constantly being yelled at by Fox.
Wow. That's horrible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Fox News just needs to be shut down. I mean, they really add no value. None. I mean, am I being tough on them?
Well, no, but I will say, Dan and I were talking earlier, it seems the latest mantra of the right conservative media is defund the military. Now, I'm all for cutting our military budget, but when you start saying defund the military and increase money for police, who does that play into? That plays into a different dictator. That's not helping us out.
Well, I find that very rich, especially since the Republican Party has been the party that's been loading up the funds towards the military.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And they're still going to do that, but this is what they're spouting out to their people. Defund the military. That thing with Matt Gaetz and General Milley.
Right. Oh, my God. Did you see that?
Oh, I love General Milley.
I had to rewind and watch it again. It was just delicious.
But last night on Newsmax, this white female anchor went on about how dare General Milley talk about critical race theory in the military. They're not a woke organization. Defund the military.
That's another gaslight term.
Yep,
Woke.
exactly. Keep it up. Keep the gaslight. And that's the thing about gaslighting. You can't stop. It's constant. It's on the verge of badgering somebody's brain.
Right. Right. So,
there's just no end to it.
Yeah. Well, you know what they're doing? The same thing to the word woke as they did with the N-word. You know, they're demonizing it. Right? So now when people get, like, offended or they get, like, you know, apprehensive, almost like you're calling them out if somebody calls them woke, you know? And I think that's really strange because that's not something that came from the Caucasian side. That came from the African American side. And I just think that if any other thing that they would want to demonize, it's always something that comes from the black side, right? So Black Lives Matter, woke. It just doesn't make any sense to me that how people can't see through this.
Well, the only word they're going to keep trying to demonize that they're not going to let me do is I'm sticking with I'm proud to be a liberal.
What do they call them? Libtards?
Libtards.
I was like, that is so schoolyardish.
That's so much class.
Now I know. I don't know what kind of dictionary they're using. I don't think it's in the dictionary, is it?
Not yet.
It probably will be. They just add everything to that dictionary. All right, when we come back, we'll have some final thoughts.
Hey, Stan, have you heard about that new podcast called RaceAware?
I have. I never miss it, Ryan.
But have you seen that they have merchandise?
No, I haven't. Is it nice?
It sure is. There's something for everyone.
Where did you find it?
I found it on patreon.com/RaceAware.
And what do they have?
Oh, my favorite's the stainless steel water bottle, but they've got clothing and other accessories and coffee mugs, too.
Do they have the clothing for men and women?
Yes, they do.
Oh, great. I can't wait to check it out.
I'm thinking it's great for birthdays and the upcoming holidays.
Good idea. I think I will.
Here, let's go there and check it out.
Sure, let's go.
Well, I guess before we go up to our closing section, I want to remind people that we do have a web page. It is raceaware.rocks, ROCKS. And I never thought I would say this, but we have merch. And our merchandise is at RaceAware MERCH.com.
And it's hot.
There's a lot of stuff on there. We still have some Juneteenth things on there as well.
And I still like the stainless steel water bottle. That is cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right, guys. So what are your last thoughts, final thoughts on the gaslighting?
I think for me, my last thought was something that we discussed, that we need to find answers, not just complain about situations. And I think for me, when somebody is trying to get you to believe in what I call their lies, instead of just blindly believing what they say, ask for proof. You know that you can do that. You're allowed to do that. When somebody tries to tell you something that in your mind you know isn't the truth, ask them to prove it. That's it for me.
As you all know by now, I'm pretty active on Twitter, and I still maintain 2 relationships with 2 different people who are hardcore right-wing Republicans, and I do it because we still talk to each other. We agree maybe 5% of the time, but we're still respectful, we still talk to each other, and we found some common ground. That's getting harder and harder these days, but if you can find that common ground with somebody, try and keep a conversation going.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm going to piggyback off of what Dan said. Yeah, it's true. You can ask for proof, but as we've described earlier, people who gaslight double down rather than work with you. So even in the psychological world, a gaslighter is somebody that you walk away from. Just walk away. Mm-hmm. Leave them with their gaslighting. They can tell themselves the lies that they want to. They don't have an audience, then what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to conform or stay alone. Because somehow we have to stop this gaslighting. We have to stop twisted truth. Mm-hmm. We want to thank you guys for spending this time with us on RaceAware. As always, if you found the podcast valuable, please subscribe, share, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought about it. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about next. Remember to visit our website. Our website is RaceAware.rocks. Until next time, stay safe, informed, and race aware, because truth matters.
We love bringing you the RaceAware podcast content. If you like what you hear, find our podcast valuable, and want to help us keep creating our content, show your support by spreading the word and partnering with us on Patreon for as little as $2.99 a month by going to patreon.com/RaceAware. Partners of the show get access to exclusive benefits such as private access to the RaceAware community, the digital downloads, voter power, free access to the live RaceAware lounge, supporter shoutouts, best of all, free RaceAware merchandise, and so much more. Check us out at patreon.com/RaceAware. Politics, protests, human rights, justice, equity, community. RaceAware.